The next look for in our domain is feedback that occurs and reoccurs in multiple formats. So, what exactly does that mean? Well, this really is focusing on the different ways that there are feedback in your classroom, not just from the teacher, but from peer to peer, self assessment, and different ways like that. So, really, the very first thing to think about when you're really focusing on feedback is creating your classroom culture. How do you create a culture that's built to honor peer voices and to celebrate that very process? From the very beginning, we start by honoring different learning styles, by being aware that some people move faster, some people move slower. Some people like to have learn with words on a page. They like to read them. Other people like to listen to them. Other people like to watch them. So it's all about honoring all those multiple ways of learning. And in your classroom, as you explore different delivering content in different ways, it's that I'm going to call it pulling aside the curtain, where you pause when you have used a learning artifact and you talk about, now, did it work for you? Did it not work for you? You're talking about the process of learning. Creating this classroom culture is really honoring that there are multiple processes of learning and taking the time for students to understand what is their process of learning. I was in college before I understood that the best way I learn is reading out loud. All through high school, I never knew that. But in college, I understood that about myself. I needed to read things out loud. I needed to hear it. I needed to move and do it. That's what we were trying to help students learn more quickly at an earlier state so that they know this is how I learn the best. I'm going to make sure that this is the way I learn. Another way to think about this in a classroom is to take the time to teach. What does peer feedback mean? How does this actually happen in our classroom? How do we make sure that students understand what the expectations are? So in this way, we're going to give them opportunities to learn about it in a very step-by-step process. At the beginning of the year, that's where I would suggest it. So I explain my expectations as a teacher. Here's the process, here's what I expect. And then we're going to practice it. You're going to be in small groups, you're going to be in partners, we're going to practice this. In our continuous learning environment, this can happen in Zoom rooms, breakout rooms, or in Google Hangout rooms, where you have students in small groups, give them a task, let them practice. If you're in Zoom, you as a teacher can pop into different rooms and listen in. It's a great way for them to know this is an important thing. I also suggest doing this in a low cognitive load. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, if I want to learn about giving feedback on a student's writing, that's my goal, that's the learning target, is getting feedback about writing. Maybe I would offer up a nursery rhyme, and I would be the person that gives the nursery rhyme to my peer, my partner, and then the partner would give feedback to me. Now, a nursery rhyme is not really mine, and it's nothing that is a cognitive load, but I can practice the process, what I expect, what the teacher expects students to be doing in this learning environment. The next really big and important thing is self-assessment. I think that we sometimes do not give self-assessment enough time and enough focus in the classroom because we don't have time. In this kind of a learning environment, time is a little bit different. And really, we are depending on students to self-assess. They need to take more responsibility for their learning in this environment. So we need to help them learn, well, what does that actually look like? So making self-assessment and self-reflection a very regular process. How focused was I on the learning today? Well, is that why I didn't understand it? So there becomes a close connection between both the process and the outcome, and building that into lessons over and over and over. That language, was I focused? Was I not focused? That's on the process, but also self-assessment on the product. Helping students have ways to check that they know what they need to know. Providing exemplars that they can measure themselves against. Did I do this part? Did I do this part? This may be a rubric, or it may be models. There's a lot of different ways you can provide this, but some sort of an exemplar that you're asking students to measure themselves against. And having that happen often in small groups with a low cognitive load to begin with, that you're slowly building, so that there's more and more opportunity. And finally, there is a need for students to feel like their self-assessment, their feedback actually changes the way the learning happens. So the worst, absolute worst thing that can happen is when we ask questions of students, give us your input, give us your feedback, and then nothing changes based on that feedback. So we have to hold ourselves accountable as teachers to say, if I'm asking for feedback, that means I need to honor that feedback and I need to take that to heart. If they say I am lecturing too long, I need to not say, yes, but I know better. I need to say, I need to listen to this. If it's too long, can I chunk it? Can I intersperse it with a video now and then? Can I do things that break it up so that I still get the content to them, but not in the same format? We need to listen to what our students are saying. If we're asking them to be honest with one another, we need to let them be honest with us as well. The next thing you're going to do is read an article, and this article is called Online Assessment Strategies for Distance Teachers and Learners. It's an excellent article that gives many examples and ways to dig deeper into this whole online assessment kind of an idea. They provide multiple formats and multiple ways to assess students in your classroom and in an online environment. I think it's a great way to do it. At the end of this article, you'll have a chance to do some more reflection. Again, asking you to take what you've heard, take what you've learned, what you've listened to, and apply it back to your own classroom. Now, you may be listening to this in the summer where you don't have a classroom right now. So I would suggest that you think about your most recent learning environment. Or your most recent learning environment might have been voluntary. And in the fall, it may be mandatory. So it may not be an exact fit, but what I'd invite you to do is think about ways that you can start to consider these questions. And how can this live in your classroom? And I'll see you again